Is the government doing enough to secure the country? We have Cabinet Secretary Interior Joseph Ole Lenku. Thank you so much for making time for us. Should I ask that question or should I assume what your answer will be? Is the government doing enough to secure the country?
Thank you. We have had...
We'll go there. I just want a yes or no before I go back to the question.
We are doing more than enough.
You're doing more than enough, so
yes.
It's an emphatic yes.
Yes.
Before we go ahead, in that story we just saw in Kiambu, as Judy Kosgei reported there, and you made a joke here when we were in studio, William Kengede is the Deputy County Commissioner Kiambu. According to you and the government, we thought he ceased to be, and there he is on the screen, he ceased to be the Deputy County Commissioner on Thursday when you interdicted him among other four Deputy County Commissioners. What is he doing today, still addressing the public there as the Deputy County Commissioner of Kiambu?
When a government directive is issued on an aspect like that, there is a mechanism used to make sure that it's implemented, and therefore the implementation of the same will come to force.
Meaning it takes a while before...
No. It doesn't take a while before. It takes effect forthwith.
Immediately?
Yes.
But he's still the Deputy County Commissioner speaking today, addressing people days later. Why I'm asking this question is that Kenyans are already asking, after the government came out so strongly and said 52 people have been interdicted, was it just lip service if you're seeing the Deputy County Commissioner today talking?
You know, we have learned to live with the criticism whether we do or we don't. What we are actually doing is to do the right thing. But to expect credit, we don't expect. Because Kenyans demand action, and when action is taken, some come and say it should not have been taken. If the action is not taken, people say, where is the government? And therefore, as I said some times back, we will say less and do more.
Right.
And will indicate how much more we have done going forward.
Right. Okay. With due respect again. So the action has been taken, but he's talking. Does that mean it's the same for the rest, or what is going to happen? He's still in office.
You know, when we read the names of the officers whom we interdicted, I will not know which Kangede you are talking about. And therefore, the mechanism to implement a directive or a decision exists in government. If there will be any rogue officers who will disobey the directive, there is a mechanism to address the same.
Right.
Yes.
So that will be addressed.
Yes.
Right. The other question, as regards to that, we're coming to the security issues. The other question people were asking is, yes, the government was lauded when they did this, interdicting 52 government officials, especially those in the localities where these people died. But when you interdicted 5 Deputy County Commissioners, questions were raised as to why you went for Deputy County Commissioners and not the County Commissioners themselves.
Let us look at the issue of alcohol and illicit brews. When the Jubilee administration came to power, one of the first things the president addressed as a key security concern to be addressed is the issue of illicit brews and alcohol. We have started the campaign against this menace since the administration came to power.
Right.
We have put out a mechanism even including the issue of Nyumba Kumi. We have gone out of our offices to address officers in county to find this menace. Now, when we take action on this, we come to you and we say this is knee-jerk reaction to a tragedy because the government has just woken up the first day because people have died.
Right.
Hussein, I can tell you that we have very elaborate, very clear, long-term strategies to address a number of ills that affect our society and that are affecting security. So if you go back to your system, you will notice that this campaign against illicit brews and drugs has been one of our priority areas to address.
I agree.
About 3 months ago, we launched the RRI initiative, which again, this was one of our priority areas targeted.
Right.
And we put our county commissioners, our officers, our chiefs, our OCSs on notice
right.
to say that this menace must be eliminated. We have lost substantial amount of youth to this problem.
So
now, why we interdicted the deputy county commissioners, the chiefs and all that, these were the officers who were directly responsible for the areas that the problem occurred. Oh. And therefore, it is not that the county commissioners were spared for any reason, but we are looking at the culpability of the individual whose jurisdiction the problem falls under.
Which many say makes sense when a chief of that locality is interdicted, when an OCPD of that locality is interdicted, but deputy county commissioner is in the whole county, just like the county commissioner.
We have a broader mechanism to establish how we discipline our officers.
Okay.
And Kenyans themselves give us information using the Usalama Watch and other framework to indicate how much laxity exists in the system in some areas. And therefore, it is a quite elaborate, a detailed way. It's not a face value thing the way the citizens are watching. And therefore, I can give the citizens the assurance and the officers that this is a just decision, is well informed, and it is part of performance target given to individuals to achieve.
Right.
Those individuals came to say that these are incarceration center, these are against human rights and all that. But you never heard the voice of those who have suffered because of the insecurity and criminals in their midst. And therefore, Usalama Watch has done extremely well.
Right, and you're talking about...
Any refugees now we have in our societies are aware that they will be found.
Right.
Because the citizens are reporting them. But more importantly, a number of them have actually relocated to their camps voluntarily. Even those without fares, they came to the Department of Refugees to say, please give us fare to go to the camps.
Yeah.
And therefore, just the refugee could be an example I'm giving, but the Usalama Watch has created a platform for citizens and security agencies to collaborate.
Work together.
And he has also sent a very clear signal to the criminals that their days are numbered, and they will be found because they have nowhere to hide.
And that is where I'm going next, because you've talked about results and the successes.
Yes.
Are there any key suspects of terror or people on, crime watch list that you have been able to nab as a result of Usalama Watch?
Very
with
many.
Specifics. Very
many. In fact, we have been able to get the individual who perpetuated the terror attack on Kasarani. The Mombasa latest attack, we also got the individuals who were involved.
On Kasarani, you mean on...
is it
along Thika Road?
Along Thika Road.
Right.
Along Thika Road.
Right.
We got the individuals who actually planned and executed that action. And we also got a number of people who have been looking out of the Westgate terror attack. And therefore, individuals who have been on our wanted list, some are actually very high-level suspects, whom after processing will be able to identify and say, this is the person we've been looking for.
You've mentioned... do you have numbers? The numbers of how many you've been able to get on Hub?
Specifically, not quite, or in terms of 1, 2, 10, 20, but in terms of individuals who we wanted, there were some 6 very specific individuals who have been looking for, among many who have come on board. Okay. There are many who are being processed, who after processing is when we'll know the results.
Right. Even after this operation, you've mentioned the blast we had along Thika Road in the public service vehicles and in Mombasa. Critics are concerned that as a country, are we really taking the right approach? Because this happened after Usalama Watch, didn't it?
I would like to go back to the issue where Kenyans and specifically the press and some individuals say that this is a knee-jerk reaction to a problem.
Right.
I would like to say that there is a very elaborate, very clear long-term strategy on security by government. And I gave earlier on the example of the issue of fight against illicit brews. We came up with a clear modernization program on police, which actually started even some times back. But now what we have done as the Jubilee administration is to fully implement the same. Part of the police modernization program was what you are seeing in our addressing mobility issues, what you are seeing in our addressing housing issues. We have even already started the construction of the forensic lab, which has been a pending issue for very many years.
Right.
And we think that this is going to be a game changer in terms of verifying suspect, analyzing what is found in terms of these problems. And therefore, those are long-term very specific, measurable actions we are taking. When it comes to terror, just before the end of last year, I gazetted a regulation that governed counter-financing of terrorism. That framework provides a way for us to be able to identify suspects, list them, and take appropriate legal action on them. Now, when the director of CID gave this information 2-3 weeks ago, people thought that this is a knee-jerk reaction. But this is out of our gazetting the regulation that governs this process close to 6 months ago.
Although I'm talking
so
about
basically, what we are looking here are the actions and system put in place some times back yielding fruits. So we are not reacting to a situation. Of course, we must respond to situations. But there is a very clear way, and government is properly addressing the crime situation, and we are certain that going forward, crime is reducing, and crime will be brought to acceptable levels. And
by this, you're referring to Usalama Watch as well?
Usalama Watch is a sub-component of very many activities happening on the security front. Usalama Watch and Nyumba Kumi are part of the framework within which wananchi are able to cooperate with security agencies.
Now, many Kenyans were expecting, or so it was said by security agencies, that this would help in getting terrorists amongst us. Usalama Watch will go a long way in doing that. Critics, of course, were questioning whether this was intelligence-led and whether we're running after an amorphous or faceless enemy.
We don't listen to our critics because they will tend to create diversionary tactics on what we need to do. We operate on a clear strategy, clear plan, clear direction to address the security situation in the country. If ours is to respond to what the critics are saying, then we'll be running all over like headless chicken just to address what people could be misleading us. And therefore, what critics say is irrelevant. What is important is the plan is implemented.
Is it an okay, I wouldn't want to go into what critics say because I'm not one of them. I'm just doing my job here. But don't you want to listen?
Probably part of your job is to criticize.
Exactly. Wouldn't you want to listen to people with another opinion on how you should be?
Absolutely, we do listen.
So why would you say it's irrelevant?
In security, we don't take any information for granted. But we are saying we are also aware of the possibility of infiltration to divert our plans. That is what we are cautious about. It is not that we don't take their criticism in a positive way. We do, and sometimes it has helped, but many a time it is laced with lies.
There are concerns, and I'm sure you've had these concerns yourself, that when this Usalama Watch was being done, and as it is being done, it had the effect of profiling and harassing Kenyan Somalis. You've had those concerns.
Very many times.
What have you done to stop this disturbing trend?
We have been consistent. We have been very clear. It is still very clear to us that terrorists are neither Somali, nor Muslims, nor Christians. They are terrorists. We have had some very, very fruitful discussions, including yesterday, with a good number of Muslim leadership. Actually, yesterday we met with 21 of them. They have come out very strongly to say, we want to support this cause. It has hurt our businesses. It has hurt Kenyans, not only Muslims. And therefore we want to come out to debunk the notion that this is Muslim targeted. It's not. It is neither Somali targeted. It is criminals targeted. That has been the position of the president, the government, the leaders of Somali in government and even out of government, to say that, to try and insinuate that this is targeting Somali is malicious and diversionary.
We know the Kenya Defense Forces are in Somalia.
And they're there to stay.
Fine, that wasn't my point, but right, they're there to stay. What I would want to know is, and as your late predecessor put it, Olwa Ojode, saying the head is in Kenya and the tail is in Somalia, when he was referring to Al-Shabaab. The question I want to ask is, what was your counsel or advice as the Interior Cabinet Secretary, knowing that us being in Somalia, or Kenya being in Somalia, will always be the effect of being attacked in Kenya, and it has happened over the last 2 or 3 years. What was your advice?
Our being in Somalia is strategic and necessary, and it is not negotiable. Before we went to Somalia, these terrorists called Al-Shabaab had caused a lot and much more greater pain than it is now to the country, to the region. Specific things that I would like to bring to your attention. It had become impossible to trade along the Indian Ocean because of piracy.
Right.
This piracy money is what was fueling and financing Al-Shabaab activities. In fact, they had even gone to the extent of starting to kidnap our tourists. You know that before that happened, that already come into the country.
Right.
The throwing of grenades was a lot more times happening at that time. And therefore, our going to Somalia has extremely weakened the Al-Shabaab, has opened the trade route for the Indian Ocean, has removed piracy money, which was infiltrating into our economy and distorting our economy. And it had given the Al-Shabaab the impression that they can do what they want. Now what we are seeing is an extremely weakened terror group trying desperately to unleash pain to
Kenyans,
to soft spots. And therefore, our being in Somalia has even made it possible for AMISOM and the international community to come and support the initiative. And therefore, it was necessary. It was necessary.
I respect that. But would you agree, because statistics speak for themselves here, that Kenyans have been worse off in terms of attacks in Kenya, in the country, and that is where your docket comes in, since Kenya went into Somalia than ever before?
Who is the authority giving the statistics who say it?
It's the statistics that have been there.
What statistics?
Kenya had never been seeing attacks. Okay, we've been seeing terrorist attacks since 1998, but we had not been seeing attacks time and time and again like now.
If we had not gone to Somalia, the situation, the attacks would have been a lot more, of much higher magnitude and much more destructive. And therefore, I want to tell Kenyans categorically and very clearly that the attacks they are seeing are the results of an extremely weakened terror group that is desperately trying to justify that they still have power. But going forward, they have not only been weakened, but they will be eliminated. We are seeing substantial part of Somalia getting peaceful, of course, with a lot of problems here and there. But we had removed their financing point through piracy, through the selling of activities in Kismayu, and as we close in through AMISOM, they will have nowhere to operate. They had almost found space in Isili. And I want to request Kenyans to understand the operation we are taking in Isili is for their own good long term.
Again, back to what has been happening in this country. Do you think the strategy we are using in fighting terrorism is the right one? You've made your point, and I respect that we still need to be in Somalia. I'm not even questioning that. What I'm asking is, over the last 2 years, there have been assurances from the government that we are dealing with terrorism, but we still see attacks over and over again in this country. Do we need a change of tact?
The strategy, we believe, is good, but does not mean that it has no room for improvement. As we move forward, and as we take action, and as Kenyans come to support the whole initiative, we find an opportunity to enrich, to improve, and even to reposition our strategy. And therefore, going forward, we will continue to fashion our strategy in line with the prevailing environment, and in line also with the evolving nature of terrorism.
Westgate was a big problem in this country. You were there. We were promised that we'll have an inquiry. We interviewed the president. He said he was waiting for Parliament. What Parliament did wasn't adopted at the floor of the House. Have you been able to find out, as the Interior Cabinet Secretary, have you been seeking the president's, or have you been advising the president and trying to find out why we don't have this inquiry? Or wouldn't you want such an inquiry to know what went wrong?
We have respect for various arms of government. And one of the arms of government is Parliament, handling that matter. I would suggest that we leave that at that.
Parliament has handled it, and that's what I'm saying. Parliament has handled it, and the report was not adopted at the floor of the House. So now I'm asking, as the Interior Cabinet Secretary, are you not concerned with Kenyans still wanting to find out? Because there was an inquiry that was promised, and it hasn't happened.
No, I'm not concerned. I am satisfied that Parliament has a mechanism to address it. I know the stage it went, it did not take the route that some people expected, but I would not really want to bring it under discussion.
So it's not something that you'd want to follow, to get an inquiry into this and advise the president? All right. We are seeing passengers in public service vehicles now being frisked and even some are being asked to produce identification documents. Is that going to be the norm?
We start with the National Transport Authority. The Ministry of Transport and Interior are working closely to address the issue of security in public transport. And as the National Transport Authority address the issue, ours as Interior through the police will be to address mechanisms agreed upon and approved by the stakeholders on what needs to be done to manage security on public transport. And therefore, if the Ministry of Transport and the stakeholders, which I know Matatu Owners Association are part of the whole process, agree that this is how we want our business managed for the safety of it, protection of our business and protection of citizens, then as part of the players will come to implement what has been agreed upon.
But should it come from you? Because what I'm looking for is uniformity in this matter, and that is why I'm asking. People are being frisked, and should identification documents being asked for, and should it be the norm so that Kenyans know this is how it's going to be?
Kenyans are becoming very sensitive about security, which is very, very important. You know, since the 9/11 and since our attack in 1998, security in the world has become a dominant factor on how people live their lives. Unfortunately, there are some sacrifices that must be made to enjoy security. Now, we are calling upon Kenyans to say, if it is for their own good that they get frisk and check, so be it. Because the alternative is more disastrous.
Right.
So these are the sacrifices we make to enjoy security, and therefore those sacrifices must be accepted by citizens.
So,
and it's not happening in Kenya alone. If you travel out
in other countries,
you will see ours is very, very soft. The frisking, the checking, in some places you are literally, you know, completely undressed. And therefore it is a global problem, it is a global phenomenon, and it has become a global way of life to have people check before they enter into airports, into transport, into trains. So for us Kenyans, it has taken us too long to get there, and it has costed us some lives. So if it is going to save lives for us to get there, may it happen yesterday.
So it's going to be the norm. Kenyans should know that, and this is coming from the Interior
Kenya will
Ministry.
Adopt the best security practices that are practiced across the world, and therefore Kenyans should accept that there are some giveaways for you to receive better security.
I agree with that completely. My question to you is, I'm asking this question because there has been concerns among some people sending us comments on TV. Why should I be asked to produce an ID or buy a tout? And so that is why I'm trying to get you to tell Kenyans now that you're on TV, is it something that has been authorized by the government so that they know it's something that they must do?
It is exactly what we are asking people to know their neighbor in Nyumba Kumi. And we are saying out of that request, Kenyans have come to say these individuals who live in our midst are suspicious. And therefore, to implement those measures are part of us making sure that people in our midst are either Kenyans or people allowed to be in Kenya in a lawful way. In fact, if you don't check these individuals in some places, even some genuine Kenyans come and say, hey, this is very dangerous. I've just walked into this supermarket, I've not been checked, and that is a risk to me. And therefore, going forward, these are some of the things that we must learn to live with.
So it's something you authorize?
Yeah.
It's something you're okay with? In public areas, again, we're going back to the frisking, and if we can have these pictures run on air. Public areas, including government installations, we see people being frisked. What is it that the security personnel are looking at exactly with the metal detectors? Because we know they move with their metal detectors and the mirrors under the car, but we don't really understand what exactly they're looking for. Or is that enough equipment to look for anything that may be dangerous?
When it comes to equipment, I would like to tell Kenyans this. Last week we had a meeting with KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, to address the issue of protecting their businesses. Remember, KEPSA is the umbrella body that brings the private sector together. And the members, the casualties when it comes to business being destroyed, because these are the captains of industry, owners of businesses.
Right.
And they're saying, we want even to make sure that this checking is not only there, but achieve the targeted result. The targeted results is to make sure that any people with arms or IEDs are properly identified.
Right. So is the government doing enough to secure the country? Just before the break, we were talking about frisking of people in public installations and public areas, and there's some feedback here that actually resonates with the question I was asking the Cabinet Secretary. If you can look at one on Twitter, at Martin Mato 19, what are you supposed to do after searching a passenger and you find them with an IED or another weapon? Now the same question is being asked by Wambua in Nairobi on 2242, saying metal detectors are being used by all manner of people, for example, touts, watchmen, etc. Do these people know what they are looking for? And if they do they know what to do if they found something like an ID? The point is, are they trained to do this?
Yeah, the conversation I alluded earlier about our talk with the private sector. And the private sector security bill, which actually has gone through cabinet and now going to parliament to become a law, is intended to provide a mechanism within which security agencies and the private security firms are able to work together, work closely. What that means is that when you have a security firm guarding a supermarket, there is a police station or a police post, say in the remote places, that are able to quickly respond to situation incidences that are reported by private security firms. And therefore, this private security bill having gone through parliament and gone through cabinet and now in parliament, when it comes into force, we are able to have a very smooth integration between security agencies and private security firms. Now that framework is necessary to make sure that the response upon detection by private security is quickly addressed by the police.
Right.
And therefore, we recognize that there is a gap to be covered, and that is what Kenyans are asking about. And that gap is being addressed through this working closely between the police and private security firms. And therefore, they may not
be adequately trained,
be adequately facilitated to address that. But of course, that problem has already been identified, and private sector and ourselves are working very closely to fill that gap.
So I know this is hard, but I mean, people are still afraid when they see such things. That is why they are asking such questions. In the meantime, what happens?
We are happy that,
really equipped
that Kenyans are starting to now honestly, openly raising security concern questions. You know, before Kenyans were taking security as just, it's not my business. Except for the problem of time. One incident happened where a matatu tout noticed some suspicious individuals and told the driver, can we take these guys to the police station? And the driver responded, we don't have time. You know, the routes we expected or the amount of money we were supposed to collect in the day. That thinking is very different from what is happening now. That Kenyans are now willing to sacrifice money, to sacrifice their time, to sacrifice anything to take care of security. And that message is what will secure this country. And that's why we are saying security is a collective responsibility.
For everybody.
So it is good that now Kenyans are starting to query, starting to raise concern, how do we help,
but
how do we address this? And therefore, the conversation around the private sector and security agencies is addressing those concerns by Kenyans. That framework is coming into place with this private security bill.
But immediacy is still a problem, isn't it? As you speak right now, to tackle this?
No, it is already being tackled, because that is what Nyumba Kumi and Fisaj, Usalama Watch and Fisaj, where citizens are coming to say, we have this
I'm
problem.
talking specifically about what people are asking when people are being frisked by watchmen and touts, with all due respect to them, not being trained, and what do they do if they find an IED, or even if do they really have the right equipment to tell whether there's an IED or whatever in a car?
The right equipment issue is a very, very important issue, and we have already, together with private sector, directed Kenya Bureau of Standard to come with a standard to govern this frisking equipment, because we also recognize it's a fact that some could be fake, you know, and so that standard now is being developed. Some are helping, but a lot more need to be covered, and that is a genuine position.
Okay,
I know you are laughing at that frankness, but it's the truth.
Well, we are hoping for immediacy. That is what people are.
And that is why the business owners are coming to say we need a standard. We need to know what to put into place, and we are happy about it.
Right. A lot more to cover, Mheshimiwa, and thank you so much for making time for us. Time is a problem, but very, very briefly, the issue of radicalization. How is the government trying to solve this problem? And where has the government been when all this has been happening?
Radicalization has been identified, and rightly so, as a serious threat to security.
But
Just go on, together with the Muslim leadership, our development partners, in fact, the US, the Swedish Embassy, the UK have come very strongly to fund this. SUPKEM has come out. Yesterday it was one of the agendas we are discussing with the Somali MPs who we met yesterday. And therefore together we are saying it has taken some time to get where our youth have gotten. We are going to put both immediate short-term measures to address this and also long-term measures. But as part of addressing the youth problem in the country, you have seen the government come up with elaborate programs, WESO Fund, the 30%.
Okay.
In fact, next week we'll be having a special launch by Interior on something, Crime Sure Power, where we want to tell our youth that there is money being given around for you to get involved in criminal activities. But now there is more clean money. There is now clean money coming from government through WESO and procurement. So why put yourself into a situation of touching dirty money that will mess your life when the government has given you an option of clean money? And we want now to encourage our youth to get out of that. So already the partners, the Muslim community, the development partners, the government are having a roadmap to address radicalization.
Right. Like I said, we can't cover everything in the time we have. Security is very wide. Let's talk about welfare of the police and their morale. It's always very important. Police get criticized because of what they do, corruption and everything. But how much are they taken care of? What would you say is the most practical thing you've done over the last 1 year or so, or in your tenure, to improve the welfare of the police?
The most tangible thing that the government, I'm saying the government because I don't want to look like I have done it alone. It is a team. It is a system.
Right. So one tangible
thing
because of time,
came up with the issue of mobility, transport for police was a serious problem.
Right.
And now everywhere we go, every Kenyan you speak to, they say we are happy we can see that. Number two, very important, the insurance. The insurance come into place.
Do they have that now?
No, the mechanism is there. It has been put in the budget that is before Parliament. We are sure our Parliament will vote that, and therefore that has been clearly factored.
Okay.
When we lost our police officers before, their families were put in a very awkward situation.
Right.
That is transformative.
Okay. Let's talk
housing. We have rolled out a program. We are now working on a PPP where we believe we'll have 25,000 houses for our National Police Service in a period of 3 years.
From now?
From now.
Okay.
We even think in the next financial year we should be able to achieve about 15,000 houses. That will alleviate that problem in a big way.
Right. One question, because we are running out of time. In 2010, there was an increment for police officers, 84%, that was to be effected in 3 years, 2010, 2011, and 2012. 2010, they got 28%. 2011, they were supposed to get 28%. They only got 14%. After that, they haven't gotten anything. It still remains at 42%, half of what they were supposed to get.
The roadmap on...
it has taken that long.
The roadmap on remunerating the police and police allowances has fully been implemented.
Are you saying...
I am very sure.
Are you saying that...
There was a program
from our sources and the pay slips we looked at for the police constable, they were looking at if they get 84% increase, they will be getting 35,000 shillings a month. And from what they told us is they still are at 42%, half of that getting about, police constable getting about 25,000 shillings a month.
I am very sure that there was a program to implement certain agreed allowances according to the Ransley report and even part of the Naikuni committee to fill the gap on allowances.
Okay.
And I'm saying categorically that has been implemented.
That has been implemented. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Finally, on the issue that police, the IG of police has talked about, tinting windows for cars. I don't know what your take is on that, and a lot of people are already talking about it. Do we have, okay, we have pictures. You're saying we have tweets from my director? Right, we have footage of people already doing this. First, some are saying, where's the legality in this? Is it legal for what the police is saying now? And how does this help really in fighting crime?
I want to say the announcement the Inspector General made is a decision by the National Police Service and the Ministry of Interior. It is a well-thought decision informed by individuals involved in criminal activities and even terror activities, using camouflage vehicles because of the tinting to perpetuate these criminal activities. And therefore I want to urge Kenyans that it is for their own good that we are doing this. It is well thought, and it will help us in the fight against criminal activities and terrorism. Therefore, I urge that... And
this will cover everybody, including ministers, because we know cabinet secretaries have this. Yes. And many, like saying on 2242, somebody here says, my car windows came tinted or glazed for that matter. What should I do? Remove the windows? Some cars nowadays are coming like that.
We have said that there will be some sacrifices to be made to achieve some degree of security for Kenyans. If that sacrifice requires you to remove the tint in your car, do it, and do it yesterday.
Okay. Finally, wow, that is one thing we would have put on the trends, but we don't have time. That is somebody joking on Twitter. Is that how you want Kenya to look? The car to be glass.
Kenyans are
it's completely transparent.
Kenyans are full of entertainment and humor, and I encourage them to enjoy.
Fine. Finally, of course, many, you've done well over the last 1 year and a few months as the Cabinet Secretary Interior. Many, and I know you've had this before, have talked about your background in the hospitality industry and whether it has been hard for you now to come into this docket of Cabinet Secretary. And you are aware of the criticism in social media and everywhere where people have been talking about you. Just right now, you told me they've been calling you names. How have you dealt with that as a person? And as your family, how has it been for the last 1 year? And in hindsight, would you have done anything differently?
Hussein, one Kenyans have come to see, I believe, is that I don't swear small stuff. In the face of all the insults, the machinations, the drama, I have stayed calm and focused. I want to tell Kenyans that to be appointed to a position of this responsibility is not an emotional decision. It's a very well thought decision. But I also want to say that I have what it takes in both resilience and even academic credentials. Probably Kenyans don't know that I'm a graduate of the University of Nairobi. Mm-hmm. From a remote village school, I went to a national school, Nakuru High School. Right. And no, I don't think there is any institution in the country that has put Kenya in the map like Kenya Utalii has done. When an individual comes and says that Lenku is from a small beverage college, that is an insult to our institutions. And I think we can insult individuals, but we must respect our institutions.
Has it affected you as a person?
Sorry?
Did it affect you as a person?
Does it affect me? Because it's not the truth. Why would I allow side shows to distract me from a very important national calling? I will not allow that. That will be reckless of me. Okay. And therefore, I want to assure Kenyans that we are on course in security. I have what it takes. They have seen it. And the side shows are immaterial. Okay. And we wish you nothing, Bwana Ole Lenku, but the best Interior Cabinet Secretary. Joseph Ole Lenku, thank you so much for making time for the big question. And like again, we wish you nothing but the best to help secure this country. Just finally, just to say something very small. Kenya Utalii College, where I came from, is the only African institution in the World Tourism Organization map a center of excellence. So Kenya should actually celebrate the institutions. Right. And I'm proud to be associated with Kenya Utalii College and the University of Nairobi, for which I'm a graduate of. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, and good luck.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. We now cross over to Janet Bogwa. We're going to look at some of your tweets. Janet?
Right. Let's see whether we can put anything on the screens. Do we have those boards on Twitter? Let's take a look if we have that feedback that we can put. There we have it. At Cherry Njoki says, the government is doing its best, but most Kenyans are just complaining, yet they don't want to comply to necessary steps taken, which is what the minister has just talked about. Atituva says, we can't completely eliminate terrorism as it continues to evolve. However, we can improve our response. Hussein, I don't know whether you want to take a few as well or whether I should go on. All right, I'll go on. At George_Mbithi says, it is pretentious for the government to say they don't know how terrorists cross our borders. They seem to be brought in. And then let's see if we have anything else. Do we have some more feedback? All right, looks like that's all we have for tonight on Twitter. And of course on SMS, Hussein had
yeah, I have a few, Janet. Right, we have Ronald Lagat Chenge. I need to congratulate the Cabinet Secretary Joseph Ole Lenku, who is tirelessly working to provide security for Kenyans. God bless you. James Nairobi, they should have the Kenya Army out. He means Somalia, out of Somalia. And for the attackers, I don't understand what it means there. Okay. And there's a question here which I already asked. Somebody say, please ask the CS whether removal of tints will reduce terrorism, and which law is the IGP reading from, since the law on tinted widows applies to PSVs only.
All right. Thank you for that, Hussein Mohammed. I'm Janet Bogwa. Thank you for watching The Big Question tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you, Janet, and I'm Hussein Mohammed. Again, we thank you for watching The Big Question and for your responses. Have a good night. Of course, again, still the minister here, we thank him for making time for us. Thank you for watching The Big Question. Until next time, God willing.